So today we're back on, as Ethan says, the ugly Ford Ranger. But we're back on the sport track. I've been thinking a lot over the weekend, and I've decided that I'm going to tear into this motor and see what exactly is wrong. The guy told me that he pulled ahead and that he put it back on, he never got it back in time, and so it never ran. So I'm hoping that it's not ruined and is just out of time and he didn't know how to time it right. So Ethan's here today. He's going to help me for a little bit. We're going to pull off these valve covers and we're going to see if, first of all, if we can just time this thing right and hopefully throw it back together and we won't have to yank the motor. So we're going to get right to it. We're going to probably tear the hood off so we got lots of room to get around in here. Let's get this thing figured out. We're going to get it fixed. Okay, so we've been at it for what, like an hour and a half now, Ethan, or something like that?
I don't know.
Anyway, pretty quick. It's actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. We got the valve cover off,
Really clean.
and now we have no idea what we're supposed to do. I've never done this. Ethan's never done this. This is our first time doing this. So, I mean, next thing we got to do is we got to put the motor on top dead center. So, I'm going to crawl underneath it and turn the crankshaft nice and slow. Make sure we're not running into any interference. And we will put this thing on top dead center and figure out if this thing's on timed or not. Hopefully it's not, and I can just switch some things around and it'll be
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
yeah, then we don't have to pull a motor. Anyway, we're gonna get back to it. Okay, so we've been at it for like heck another hour at this. The other side was easy, but there was a lot of crap in the way and we didn't want to take a lot of stuff off this motor, so
Spider webs.
as you look at this, there's still so much stuff on the top on that thing, dude. So much. This is not a how-to. This is just how we're doing it. This is the wrong way to get the job done. And hopefully it'll work. Hopefully, all right? Okay, so we've pulled off the other valve cover and we got good news. So we've got the crankshaft on top dead center. We checked it with both the timing mark on the harmonic balancer as well as using the old trick, putting something in cylinder number 1 through the spark plug hole and raising it up. And anyway, we did that. The timing on the passenger side of the motor is on. It is correct. So like the previous owner stated, he never removed this head and never messed up the timing on this side. But the timing is, however, messed up on the driver's side head. And I felt that because as I was turning the crankshaft with a ratchet, I actually the valves hit one of the cylinders and it just deadheaded. It stopped. So we backed it off. Luckily, we were able to put it on top dead center without any of the valve interference. So what we're going to do now is, if you look, it's really hidden back in there. So you can see this cam gear here, and there's a nut right down there that I'm pointing to with my finger, that bolt. We are going to loosen that, and while we loosen that, somehow we're going to get on the back of the camshaft. Oh look, there's a spider web right there. Ethan's going to get it.
Here you go.
There's so many spider webs all over this thing. So we are going to twist this camshaft until it is timed correctly, and then we will tighten that bolt back down once we've got it timed correctly. And once we've got that done, because we're going to need every bit of all 4 of our hands, we'll let you know. We'll take a look back at this. But I'm freaking stoked. This is going to be awesome. Dude, I'm so excited for this build. It's not even funny. All right, we're gonna get to it, guys. Sun's going down. I want to have this thing running before the sun goes down tonight. We only got like 3 hours, so we got our work cut out. Let's get to So, update. It's the next day. I got Ethan with me here again. We stayed up pretty late last night trying to diagnose what was wrong with this motor. We finally figured it out after way too long. We should have looked at this earlier. It actually has a broken intake valve. So, you know what? What can you do? Not a big deal. I totally planned on swapping this motor anyway. I have a spare. So, me and Ethan have been at this for a little while. We've been getting this thing ready to rip out. As you can see, we got the hoist right here in front of, or hooked up. We are pretty much ready to yank this motor out. Of course, there's probably 1 or 2 things that are still hooked up in there, because that's just the way this goes. So, we're just gonna get right to it. We're gonna start ripping this motor out. Well, guys, it's been a couple hours, all right? Oh, that's really bright and weird. Okay, as you can see, you might not be able to see it very well, I can't tell. There's a motor here on the ground. It's got a head off it. This is the original motor that came in the Sport Track. Okay, like I said, it had one of the broken off valves. So we pulled the head. And the reason we did that is because the motor that I thought was good had a bunch of water got down inside of it, and it seized that thing up solid. Like, very bad. So, we pulled this head off to see how bad the valve had damaged the piston head and the cylinder, and it definitely has some damage, but it doesn't look absolutely atrocious. Okay, like I said, guys, this is not a how-to video. This is how we're doing it wrong. That's gonna work.
You know what that's called?
Hopefully.
The hurricane way.
The hurricane way? Oh gosh. Anyway, so what we're doing right now is we actually pulled the head off of the junk motor,
Which is good.
and we are going to use that head and put it back on the original motor, and then we're going to put the original motor back in the truck. So we've got both heads pulled. We're just doing a little bit of cleanup work on the new head so that we can put it on this motor. And once we get it put on here, we're going to probably just start going back together with it, put it back in the truck. Of course, we're going to have to time this right as well and not do what the previous guy did and break a valve off. Hopefully, yeah. Anyway, so there's a quick update. Sorry this has been terrible. We've done a ton of work in between the last clip and this one, but it's been a nightmare. It has been a nightmare. Alright, okay guys, we're going to get back at it. We're going to put this head on and start making some adjustments and stuff. Let's get to it. Well guys, it's the next day again. We worked late into the night last night, but we found out that the head bolts are torque to yield bolts, so you can't reuse them. So I ordered some of those last night. They got here today. So I went and picked them up, and so I'm back. I'm here, okay? So the update on the block and the cylinders right now is I have the cylinder head set on there. I just barely got back with those bolts, so I'm going to take them and we're going to put them all in right now, torque this head down. And I've got the timing pretty darn close to what it should be right now. And then once I've got the head torqued down, then we'll take and actually make sure that both the driver and the passenger cams are timed, and we'll tighten down the bolts on those cam gears, and then we'll slap the valve covers on, and probably the fuel rails and the intake. And then once those items are on, we'll probably put it back in the truck, is what I'm thinking. I might not do the intake though. I might just do the fuel injectors and rails and stick those on, just because it gives me a lot of good room on the back of the motor to work if I leave the intake off. And it's plastic, so I don't want to risk breaking it. So I'm gonna get that done and bring you guys up to then after we get the head and it timed back on. Okay, let's do it. Well, we've done quite a bit, guys. Right here behind me, we've got the motor put back together. It is ready to go back in the truck. It was quite a nightmare. I broke a Torx 55 pretty bad. Trying to crank the head bolts down to their torque specification. But we got it figured out. So right now I'm gonna push the truck back forward and get this motor ready to sit back down in here. We're gonna lower it back down in, bolt the transmission up, and then bolt the motor mounts in, and we're gonna call it good. And hopefully we won't be too far from starting it. So let's get to it. So, as you guys can see, it's pretty late. I've been working on this thing for several hours. I've got the motor installed. It is in there. I filled it up with radiator fluid, oil, or coolant, oil. I've got everything hooked back up. We're ready to try to start this thing. So before I tore into it, I tried cranking it over and it wasn't cranking, so I'm not exactly sure what was up with that. When I pulled the motor, I had to pull the starter anyway, so I had my wife take it down to O'Reilly and have it tested. The starter tests good, so I'm not sure what's up with that. Hopefully it was like a loose wire or loose connection, and I'm just going to be able to jump in it and turn the key and it's going to go. Or who knows, maybe there might be a bad ignition switch or something. I'm not sure, but we're sure as heck gonna try to figure it out if it doesn't just crank over right now. So, I just noticed I gotta do one more thing, and then we're gonna try to start this thing. Let's do it, man. Okay, guys, I'm gonna jump in the truck and we're gonna try to turn the key for the first time. So hopefully this goes good. Let's give it a heck. Well, it's running, but it's definitely missing on some cylinders. The head that I used had some water in it, so I think some of the valve seats on the intake side weren't very good. But I'm hoping running it will clean them up a little bit.
Oh.
Well, I'm leaking something from somewhere. Let's check it out. Oh, that's a good magnet. Is that fuel? It looks like it might be fuel. Oh. Well, I'm gonna look at that and see if I can figure out where that fuel leak's coming from. I'll get back with you guys.